Peace. What's going on YouTube? It's Kareem Samdi back again with another video. So today we're going to be looking into how the emotions and the emotional system plays into our spiritual journey. So what can we really learn from what's going on inside of us? Because a lot of times we like to think that, while we're on the spiritual path, we want to be focused on spiritual things. We want to be focused on thinking better, doing better things, and just becoming better, the best version of ourselves. Becoming high vibrational and all these other types of things that we, tend to associate, with the spiritual journey, right? But a lot of the times we forget exactly where our emotional body is along this journey. Even if we aren't on the journey, even if we aren't on the path, at least consciously, it's become a thing to repress and suppress your emotions and just get through life being the best that you can be, to just hustle, to tough it out. And when you do those things, you neglect the chakras, you neglect the emotional body. And the emotional body is one of the most powerful things to actually elevating your consciousness, because the thing is, you can't just get through your spiritual path using just your logic, just your reasoning, and just your determination. You also have to have, your emotional side fulfilled, because that's still a part of you, right? So we have to really take that into account. It's like you can't just do, whenever you're taking care of a car, right? You can't just take care of one part of the car. You have to take care of the entire car. The same way that if you're working out your body, you can't just work out your upper body, because the lower half of your body will be disproportionate. So the same thing occurs when it comes to our consciousness. Our consciousness functions in many different ways, but it's not just all about the mind. It's also about the heart. It's also about the emotions and what we go through. So how does this all tie in, right? It ties in because there's situations and lessons that we go through in our lives. There's times where we'll be traumatized off of events that happen. There's times where we'll learn things, but we'll learn them in, difficult ways. There's sometimes we'll be stuck in certain thought processes and certain ways of feeling, certain ways of being, and it'll drag us down, maybe mentally and emotionally. But spiritually, you have to navigate through that. You have to process these things. And I said it in my previous emotional alchemy video. Actually, in the shadow work video, I said it as well. There's a lot of repressed dark parts about us, and the dark parts about us are our greatest teachers. We can't just be focused on, love, light, and spiritual ascension without actually going into the darkness first. You go into the darkness first, you can bring in what's hidden within you. So that part of you that you're trying to become, that is within you, is actually within the darkness, and it's not anywhere outside of you. You have to go in through the darkness, and sometimes going in through the darkness involves actually dealing with the toughest parts of ourselves. I had to do this for myself many different times. I'm still doing it every single day. Dealing with the parts of myself that I know for a fact that it might have been there for a long time. For me, when it came to even just my relationships with people, it was all about being open and honest. Something that I was so scared of, because I was scared of, other people's judgment based off of who I really was. And that's something that, a lot of us deal with, maybe within relationships and also outside of relationships too, because, when it really comes to being completely honest with ourselves, we're not all, living that exact life. A lot of us, we're in places we know we don't want to be in. We're doing things that we know we don't really want to do, but we're told that we have to do it because, you got to get by in life, or you gotta feel comfortable. You gotta, at least, feel like you're safe in that sense, right? You want to play it safe. But a lot of times we'll find that playing it safe, or just toughing things out is actually making things worse for us. And this is a problem that I know a lot of men deal with, because the masculine ego is told to, to remain tough, to remain hard throughout all opposition. Emotions are seen as a sign of weakness, but actually, the more vulnerable that you are, the more powerful you become. And the reason why I say that, and actually no, not even just why I say, but why I know that, is because the more vulnerable that I became personally, the less fear that I felt towards feeling my own emotions. And when you're carrying around that toughness with you, or that act of toughness, right? When you're carrying that around with you, it actually holds you back, because you're putting on a facade to escape from your fear. And your fear is a feeling vulnerable, and when you're vulnerable, you're closer to who you really are. The strongest people, actually, the mentally strongest people, emotionally strongest people, they have nothing to hide. They're completely content with who they are and what they used to be too, and who they're becoming. But if you're not content with the darkest parts of yourself, then you still have, work to learn. That's what shadow work is all about. It's all about going into the parts of yourself, that you don't want to deal with. But you have to pull those skeletons out of the closet one day. Being completely honest with yourself is the way forward on the spiritual path. You actually can't move up your chakras without being honest with yourself. And when I do get into chakras in the future, I'm going to explain exactly why that's the case. But today, what I'm really going to do is just give a brief overview as to why, honesty with ourselves really is the key. Because if you forget about being honest with yourself, you cannot be honest with others. And you can't gloss over everything on the spiritual path. The spiritual path isn't just about being, high vibrational. Isn't just about being, this ideal. It's about being you. So whoever you are, that's the ideal. You don't actually have to become anything. There's a lot of talk about, oh yeah, you have to become God, or the God within and all of this stuff. And, if it's within, then you don't have to become anything. You just have to remember who that really is. And who that really is has been shunned and programmed to think he's less. He or she is less than what he or she really is. You've been suppressed. You've been beaten down mentally, physically, and spiritually, whether you notice it or not. Just through mind control alone. And when it comes to how your emotions are played on, on a day-to-day basis, with the agendas that are pushed in every possible way, not just through the media, but just through the collective, how humans are collectively told to act, how you were taught in school, everything. All that plays a role in basically creating the robot that you have become. The average human, a lot of us were walking around as conscious NPCs. And when I say a conscious NPC, it means like, yes, you have gained spiritual consciousness, but you're not really taking control of your life yet. But before that, you were just a dead NPC, an autonomous program, and when it comes to really unlocking those parts of yourself, an unconscious program, or a conscious program, even a conscious NPC, has to realize his capability. But to realize his capability, he has to first accept what he is. And only by accepting what he is can something new come forth. And so it's the same thing when it comes to us. We have to just accept who we are and where we are. And a perfect analogy that I've heard, not just Brother Panic say, but I've heard plenty of others say, and I can relate to it myself. A perfect analogy to really put it like is that, you want to see it as you're becoming Christ, but you have to first recognize that you are Satan, that you put yourself in a hell of your own making. No one else did it to you. This is all your choice, and so the consciousness that we have is limited by our own emotional burdens. So we have to really just look within. And because a lot of our emotions, they may not consciously be there, because we might have buried them down. There's certain things that we just don't want to deal with, that we know we have to deal with. You just keep pushing them down. When you push them down, they go deep into the chakras. And so instead of your chakra system being a support system for you, your chakra system begins to imprison you. It begins to enslave you. Or it begins to beat you down, and your consciousness will degrade over time. Just as powerful as your emotions are in creating your reality, through combining the power that they have with your thoughts, to get into your subconscious mind, your emotions can also do the exact opposite. And a good way to realize how powerful you are is that if you're not in a good position in your life right now, you at least, and once you begin to take responsibility for putting yourself there, you begin to realize, okay, my mind was powerful enough to put me in the worst position, so my mind has to be much more powerful, or just as powerful enough to put me in the best position, to put me in the most favorable positions that I want to be in. And truly, it really is your only mind that's stopping, your own mind that is actually stopping you. We don't want to blame anyone else, for our own issues. We have to really take accountability on this path. And again, this path is really just about being you, being yourself. You don't have to act any kind of way. You don't have to put on any kind of facade, and you don't have to do anything that you don't want to do. The only thing that you have to do is what is in alignment, what is in harmony with what's in your heart. Because the minute you stray off that path is the minute you begin to be dishonest with yourself. So those are just some thoughts that have come from my mind that I felt like relaying to you guys. And I do hope that it actually, gives you inspiration to go forward, moving forward, and to really just look within and really just see what's really going on inside of me. Ask yourself these questions, especially when you meditate. Ask yourself, what do I need to deal with? What do I know that I need to deal with? And because, and the first thing that comes to mind is usually the thing that's the most pressing. And it too, because if you constantly keep thinking about it, but holding it back, then it's obviously something that has to be dealt with right now. Our emotions, when combined with our thoughts, they create feelings. And feelings are symbols for the subconscious mind to create our reality. So it's all about really noticing what your feelings are and going through the process of letting go to actually transform. When you let go of those feelings, or you decide to enhance them, that's when you begin to really gain control over yourself again. They're all your own. It's all your responsibility with what's going on within. Never neglect the emotional body, because the emotional body is a part of your power. It's a part of your light. It's still a part of you. You have to nurture it, and also just be more cognizant of how you treat yourself and how you talk to yourself too, because that is also key on the journey itself as well. How you treat yourself and how you talk to yourself is very important, because you have to deal with yourself every part of the day. So why not be your own best friend in that regard? And also, why not actually treat yourself with the highest amount of love and the highest amount of respect? Because it's actually been put into us to be very critical of ourselves, to be perfectionists. But in reality, you don't have to be perfect. You just have to be acceptable, or you just have to accept yourself in your own eyes, and not for anyone else. So that's the video. I hope you enjoyed it, and I hope it actually inspires you guys to transform yourselves through the emotional body. Peace.